Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And we've been talking about this since the first trailer dropped for the live-action Lilo and Stitch. This movie was absolutely going to crush it at the box office. It would not surprise me. And all of this movie ends up making $1 billion globally. Now, there are some controversial changes to the ending that might end up causing it some issues as far as the legs that it will end up having. But as of for right now, boys and girls, this thing has absolutely crushed it at the box office weekend, setting records for Memorial Day, and it is absolutely nuts. This movie is crushing it. If the trajectory continues on, this movie might end up being the #1 movie for Disney at the box office for the entire year, and that includes Marvel and everything else they put out, and that is absolutely nuts. But call her a shock there, Lilo and Stitch is still extremely popular out there in the culture, and I think if I remember correctly on one of the reports I heard, like Disney literally made like over $2 billion like just on merchandising for Lilo and Stitch last year, and that was long before this movie came out. So that is absolutely nuts. That is absolutely insane, and it is clearly something that is still very, very, very popular with the culture out there. And like we've seen before in the past with like Inside Out 2 and stuff like that, as long as Disney stays away from all of the crazy kind of LGBTQ alphabet soup mafia nonsense inside of their children's entertainment, families will come back in droves and make you successful. So this is the path that Disney needs to continue going on down there, avoiding all of that kind of nonsense and just giving families the good entertainment that they want to see. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to check out this article from thatparkplace.com, getting all of the juicy details, and of course pop over to the numbers to see exactly how insane these numbers truly are as of right now. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 1,900. We are sailing our way towards 2K over there on YouTube, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. What do you think about this? Does it surprise you at all that this movie did absolutely so well at the box office? Do you think this will be Disney's #1 movie overall for the entire year? Do you think the controversial change to the ending will end up affecting this movie's legs going forward? Let us know what you think about all of that in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well, where you can become a member, get your name at the end credits of every single one of these videos and live streams, and as well get you access to a bunch of cool emojis and member streams that we do once a month as well. So please consider checking out that link in the description down below. So from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet Marvin Montanero, Lilo and Stitch dominates record-breaking Memorial Day box office, outgrosses Snow White's entire run in 4 days. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, if that is just not the cherry on the top, if that's just not sweet, beautiful justice to see something like that happen, I don't know what to tell you, because obviously Snow White was the exact same kind of thing, a live action remake to an extremely successful Disney property out there. And guess what? 2 very different stories and 2 very different situations, and at least it looks like this one wasn't as weird as Snow White was. So here we go. Both Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning contributed to the biggest Memorial Day weekend in box office history. Movie theaters across the country surged with foot traffic as Disney's Lilo and Stitch and Paramount's Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning powered an explosive $322 million box office total across all titles, a new high for the holiday frame. That is absolutely insane. And foot traffic is one of the key words here on this one, boys and girls, because it wasn't a bunch of pre-sales, right? The pre-sales for the week prior to this were looking good, but they weren't looking like outrageous and over the top. This is foot traffic. This is just people that were out on their Memorial Day holiday weekend out there going, hey, family's in town, let's go see a movie. The new Lilo and Stitch looks good, and they took the whole family to it, and this thing crushed it at the box office. And shout out to Final Reckoning too, although that's a different story for a different video that I may or may not do. Things aren't looking so hot for them long term, but hey, you know what? It's their franchise high, but we're not here to talk about that. Families turned out in force for Lilo and Stitch, Disney's live-action remake of the 2002 animated classic. The film earned a massive $145.5 million over the weekend and is projected to close out the 4-day stretch with $183 million. That total not only blew past industry expectations, it broke the Memorial Day opening record previously held by Top Gun: Maverick $160 million over 4 days. It now stands as the second highest 4-day holiday debut in history, just behind Marvel's Black Panther, $242 million over the President's Day weekend in 2018. And obviously that was at height of the MCU, right? That was at height at Marvel fan audience trust and all of that kind of stuff. Trust me, you ain't gonna be seeing numbers like that for a Marvel movie anytime soon, I'll tell you that much. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise's latest outing as Ethan Hunt also provided formidable. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning drew older audiences in droves, earning a franchise best $63 million across the standard weekend and $77 million through Monday. It narrowly outpaced Mission Impossible's Fallout's previous record of $61 million to become the top domestic opening in the series' 29-year run. And that's awesome. That's great for them. The problem is how much money they spent on this movie. It's going to be hard pressed for this thing to end up actually making a profit, but hopefully it ends up having some legs, and hopefully the international box office helps out with those kind of things. A record opening on the 8th iteration is remarkable, said Paramount, talking about Mission Impossible. The spectacle of what Tom and director Christopher McQuarrie put on screen is a one-of-a-kind today's marketplace. The 1-2 punch, combined with strongholds from recent titles like Final Destination Bloodlines, Thunderbolts, and Sinners, pushed this Memorial Day to new heights, eclipsing the 2013 record of $314 million that had been set by the trio of Fast and the Furious, The Hangover Part 3, and Star Trek Into Darkness. Obviously, some heavy hitters right there. I never saw The Hangover Part 1 or Part 2. Let me know, were those any kind of, Part 2 and Part 3, were those any good? Let me know in the comment section down below. The strong turnout met a marked turnaround for last year's lackluster holiday frame, which struggled to clear $132 million in total. The opening weekend for Furiosa, Mad Max Starfield, and Garfield left theaters empty and momentum stalled. Every film on the release calendar for the rest of the summer is going to benefit from the momentum created over this monumental record-breaking Memorial Day weekend in theaters, said Comcore's analysts. Lilo and Stitch exploded with another $158.7 million, bringing its global box office total to around $341.7 million after just one weekend. That is absolutely insane. And as you can see now here with some Tuesday numbers factored into, this thing has already grossed almost $400 million at the worldwide box office. That is absolutely insane. And you can see it's way above the normal cone of happiness. This thing is going out there and absolutely crushing it. I mean, this thing will have made its budget back by the end of the year, right? Or by the end of this week. You know what I mean? Like, this thing's going to end up making a solid profit. No doubt about it whatsoever. Will it make $1 billion? Well, we'll have to find out what the audiences and everybody else think when that second weekend drop after the word gets around. But needless to say, things are crushing it. The project was directed by Den Fleischer Group, received an A cinema score from opening day audiences. That's pretty good. Among Disney's modern remakes, Lilo and Stitch still ranks behind The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast in terms of debut strength. It's also a major bounce back after the March release of Snow White floundered at the global box office, taking in just $204 million against a $250 million budget. By contrast, Lilo and Stitch made more in 4 days than Snow White did across its entire run. That is absolutely insane. Obviously, we know about all the controversy with Snow White and Ziegler. We've gone over all of that stuff extensively. Obviously, you didn't have all of these exact same kind of problems with Lilo and Stitch. Everybody's been wonderful. The marketing's been wonderful. A lot of the posters and some of the trailers and all of the different things that they've been doing with IGN and all of the interviews that Stitch has been giving, like, the marketing has been absolutely crushing it for this movie. It's been very entertaining. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and everybody's been having a good time. So the result is a film that appealed across generations and started earning and earned strong word of mouth from audiences rather than the headlines of an off-screen controversy. In stark contrast, Lilo and Stitch's avoided political messaging entirely, choosing instead to focus on a heartfelt story, family bonds, and visual spectacle with some fairly major changes to the film's ending that weren't publicized before release. So if you didn't hear about that, spoiler alert for the Lilo and Stitch movie, if you haven't already gone and seen it and you still plan on doing it, the ending has been changed. So instead of the sister staying with Lilo and looking after her and Stitch and everything else, and, the whole family and all of that kind of stuff, and no one gets left behind. Well, instead, Lilo gets left to the village, i.e. the state, to raise her so she can go to the mainland United States in order to go to college. So yeah, needless to say, not exactly the same heartwarming ending for the movie, so we'll have to find out and see if that actually ends up affecting its legs or not. But yeah, needless to say, might not end up going very well at all. So it's a crowd pleaser with the audience score is outstanding. Mission Impossible, obviously The Final Reckoning, all of that kind of stuff, got an A- cinema score. Still not bad at all. It's going to make a lot of money, but the costs are enormous, and it'll be lucky to break even. The delays were uncontrollable and unfortunate. A lot of that stuff happened because of all the government lockdowns during the COVID and all of that kind of stuff. So needless to say, it's one of them situations where it's going to be rough for that one. And this is the best part. Meanwhile, Warner Bros. Minecraft remains the top grossing title of the year so far, approaching the $1 billion mark with $940 million globally. But Lilo and Stitch is now a serious contender to take the box office crown if the momentum continues. So like I said, this movie's absolutely crushed it on its opening weekend, tied in with Memorial Day weekend and all the kids being out of school for the 3-day weekend and everything else. And this movie was absolutely set up for success. The marketing was great. I thought this thing was going to make $1 billion. If they wouldn't have changed the ending, I would still be saying this thing is absolutely going to make $1 billion. How much this actually affects the audience and the fans out there, and how much that affects like repeat viewing, because that's the big thing, right? Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion, over $1 billion globally, because people went back and saw the movie over and over again. And with a lot of schools letting their kids out here this week, if not very shortly, you're probably end up having some pretty good legs with this movie. Like I said, it all depends on how much that ending actually affects the overall enjoyment of the movie for fans, and of course how the word of mouth will get around. But as of right now, this movie is off to an absolutely insane start. And I know, strange concept, right, Disney? You avoid all the LGBTQ propaganda in your marketing and in all of your and in your actual storytelling, and families will actually show up with their kids to one of your movies. Now, obviously, you definitely hid the ending quite well and all of the changes you made there. Whether or not that'll end up coming back to bite you in the butt, I have no idea. We'll find out next weekend, but I'd imagine if this thing doesn't make $1 billion, it's certainly going to come very, very close, because this thing has everything going for it right now. The momentum is behind it. And hey, you know what? Credit where credit is due. Good job, Disney. You avoided all of the nonsense political agendas. You avoided all of the LGBTQ alphabet soup mafia nonsense. And now you've got a success on your hands. And you know what, Bob Iger? Good job, because you actually decided to put your own political bias to the side and get back to making good storytelling that'll actually make you money. And guess what? You avoided the nonsense. You avoided the BS. And Bob Iger, you've got a success on your hands. And hey, it's exactly what you deserve. Keep going, and maybe you'll actually be able to turn this sinking ship around. If not, well, we know what'll happen. It'll be more Snow White and less Lilo and Stitch. So keep doing the right thing, Bob Iger, and avoid the BS in children's entertainment. And I promise you, you will be a very, very successful man. After all, you'll get what you deserve either way.